Hey there. Today I thought it would be fun to take a look at some all-time sports movies and rank my top 10. So without further ado, let's start ranking. Starting off this list is The Mighty Ducks. The Mighty Ducks is a movie about an overachieving and albeit aggressive lawyer who is forced to community service after a run-in with the law. He is tasked with becoming the coach of a less than stellar Pee Wee hockey team in a league that he himself used to play in. Facing an old ally, now turned enemy, he has to learn how to teach these kids to overcome a great obstacle and reteach himself the love that he has for this game. This movie gives you the realization that every professional athlete out there, before they were at the stage they currently are, were just kids playing a game that they loved. Number 9 on my list is The Karate Kid. The Karate Kid features an out-of-place high school student named Daniel who is struggling to find his new identity in California. He, like many new students in high school, become the subject to a handful of bullies. He is then saved by a gentleman named Mr. Miyagi. Now, I don't want to get into a debate of this film on who the real Karate Kid was supposed to be. For me, the main reason this movie is on my list is the performance of Pat Morita. Pat's character not only becomes Daniel's trainer throughout this movie, but he also becomes a sort of father figure for him. From taking care of him at the beginning of the film, to becoming his mentor and building his physical and mental health, and teaching him the proper ways to wax and wash a car, paint the fence, and paint a house. All joking aside there, Pat's performance really puts this movie over the top for me. You couldn't have thought that my list would go without a Kevin Costner sports movie, did you? Number 8 on my list is Tin Cup. Tin Cup follows a wild-card, talented golfer who runs a driving range. Upon meeting a psychiatrist, he finds the motivation he needs to attempt a real run at the PGA Tour, as well as to show up a rival who just so happens to be dating that same psychiatrist. Tin Cup takes a look at the athlete who had the talent for a second chance, but never the drive. He finally takes that second chance and takes it as far as only he can. Number 7 on my list is Moneyball. Moneyball takes a look at the 2002 Athletic A's under general manager Billy Beane. After falling to the New York Yankees in the AL Division Series in 2001 and losing their top players, it was up to Billy to assemble a team on a low budget that could somehow be competitive. That is where the brainchild of sabermetrics introduction into baseball came into play. Attempting to craft a winning team through the analysis that would later be established as WAR, or wins above replacement. The idea is that each player attributes a number of WAR that totals the amount of wins your team should get. Assemble a team that has a combined WAR of 85 to 90, and you've got a chance of making the playoffs. This movie isn't just about an underdog team and trying to navigate their way through a long season. It's an introduction to how we look at statistics now. Number 6 on my list is Remember the Titans. Remember the Titans tells a story as to what life was like in the Virginia setting in 1971. Two segregated schools, one all black, one all white, were about to converge and become one, causing plenty of tension between everyone involved. At what was made to be the center were two football teams that were forced to become one and cooperate on and off the field as one. Remember the Titans tells a story about racism, struggle, teamwork, and family. It was a movie that was appreciated when it came out back in 2000, and it is one that can still be appreciated now. Number 5 is The Sandlot. A cornerstone baseball movie for many of my generation growing up. The Sandlot follows around a brainiac who moves to a new place just before summer begins. And nothing screams summer like baseball. This is where he gets himself wrapped around Benny the Jet Rodriguez and has one of the craziest summers of his existence. It's a movie that showcases that you can make friends in the unlikeliest of places, like a certified egghead making friends with a baseball superstar. It also gave us the outstanding quote, "Heroes get remembered, but legends never die." So, it is clear why this movie is on my list. Not having it on here would truly make me a goofus. Number 4 on my list is Any Given Sunday. This movie follows an old coach trying to get his team to buy into playing with a third-string quarterback who, since he's been in the league, has grown to not trust his coaches and teammates. With the veteran starter out with an injury and their second string out as well, it's up to Willie Beeman to take his last opportunity and run with it. It mainly focuses on two parts. One part is the quarterback dealing with his new leadership dynamic and struggling to acknowledge others in his success. The other is the head coach and the team's general manager and owner who begins to put her own insights as to where the team should be heading. This movie gives you a thrilling as well as unsettling feeling in your stomach as you watch it. It also gives us the phenomenal Any Given Sunday speech given by Al Pacino. And an honorable mention to the Little Giants movie that also plays on this speech a bit in the halftime of their big game. Number 3 on my list is Happy Gilmore. Arguably one of Adam Sandler's best movies that he has put out. Taking a pretty terrible hockey player who has one heck of a slap shot and putting a golf club in his hands is pretty entertaining. He has his things to work through on the golf course like many who play the game. It shows the early comedic genius of Adam Sandler with a sprinkle of wisdom with Carl Weathers and the man you'd love to hate in Christopher McDonald's Shooter McGavin. Happy Gilmore is a feel-good, goofy sports movie that plays on the comedy more than the actual proficiency of the sport. Number 2 on my list is Cool Runnings. Cool Runnings isn't your prototypical sports movie as it covers sports that aren't really well known or advertised about, starting with track and field and then bobsledding. Cool Runnings takes an athlete who appears to be at the top of his sport, but with some misfortune and a trip takes his Olympic dreams away from him. Instead of giving up, he looks for a different opportunity that comes in the shape of a washed-up bobsledder. This movie, in my opinion, holds up over 27 years later. There are ups and downs with a few zigs and zags in there that keeps you from really knowing exactly where this Jamaican bobsled team will end up. I also believe that this movie sets itself apart by the way it ends. Think about most sports movies that you've seen. More times than not, the individual athlete or the whole team that it's focusing on win their big game or big matchup at the end. That isn't what happens here. They end up crashing their sled on the last run and lose any chance of medaling in that year's Olympics. But instead of calling it quits, they all get up, put their sled that has carried them all this way on their shoulders, and walk it to the finish line to complete the race. I believe it's a touching moment for the viewers that are athletes and non-athletes to show them that you can always finish what you start, no matter the obstacles. Finally, number 1 on my list can be none other than Major League. Major League is a movie that ages surprisingly well from its original air date in 1989. It focuses on a humdrum team that's roster is filled with a few has-beens and a lot of never-words. With many odds stacked against them, they find their way to band together and go on a winning streak that sets them up for a one-game playoff to decide the winner of the AL East title, which they do indeed win. On a personal note, I, for one, always put it on whenever it's on TV, regardless of what I was watching originally. Well, those are my top 10 sports movies. Feel free to create your own list and share it with me. I would like to see how different sports movies stack up in other people's minds. Until next time, I'm Kevin Household.